You. What are you doing here? Late at night, I thought I heard a noise from upstairs, and as I went up the stairs, I encountered my husband coming out of our daughter's room. He seemed surprised to see me.
Oh. Yeah.
I heard a noise too and went into Hannah's room. She was crying because she had a nightmare, so I was comforting her. Would a daughter who usually avoids her father seek comfort from him after a nightmare? The explanation didn't sit right with me. After that, my husband started visiting our daughter's room late at night more frequently. When I asked what he was doing, he always replied that Hannah couldn't sleep and wanted him to stay with her. By morning, Hannah would always seem sleep-deprived, yawning constantly. And she became more listless. I also noticed that she seemed to be gaining weight around her waist. When I noticed the changes in my daughter's body and confronted my husband sternly, Hannah said, "I've been holding back until now, but I can't take it anymore." Listen to this. When did you get such a thing? You disgrace. A secret revealed by my daughter forced my husband to admit his crimes. My name is Angela. I married my university senior, Peter, and we had our only daughter, Hannah. Peter, who loved nothing more than our daughter, had always taken good care of her from when she was young. Hannah was very attached to her father, and even when I wasn't around, they would often go out to the park together. When I was busy during peak times at my part-time job, Peter would take the initiative to take Hannah out to amusement parks and other places for fun. And no matter how busy he was with work, Peter always made sure to attend school events like Hannah's sports day and open class days. In a world where many men prioritize work over taking care of their children, Peter was what you might call a model father, and I was always grateful to be married to him. However, as Hannah entered elementary school and became more sensitive, she began to avoid Peter gradually. Hey, Hannah, it's been a while. Why don't we go out somewhere together? We could go shopping, I'll buy you something you like. One holiday, while watching TV in the living room, Peter made that suggestion to Hannah. No thanks. I don't really want anything right now. Hannah, who was maturing into a somewhat more adult-like person, recently started feeling embarrassed about going out alone with her father. Even today, she was reluctant and refused his invitation. I'm going out of my way to invite you, and that's your attitude? Upset by Hannah's reaction, Peter suddenly scolded her. Peter wanted to get along with Hannah, but perhaps he didn't understand how to handle a teenage girl and often misjudged the situation. And he ended up getting angry when things didn't go well. Hey, there's no need to get so angry. I quickly stepped in to calm down Peter. The fight between Peter and Hannah wasn't just on that day. Whenever Peter tried to talk, Hannah would respond in a curt manner. Peter was shocked by the change in Hannah, who had always been close to him. But I didn't take it too seriously, thinking it was a sign of her growing up. She wasn't like this before. Well, she's just getting closer to being an adult. Don't be so uptight, okay? Although he was not convinced and continued to grumble, I didn't take it too seriously and tried to soothe him. But I would later regret not paying more serious attention to their relationship at this time. If I had been more attentive to their interactions, perhaps the subsequent incident might not have occurred. As their relationship remained strained, Hannah entered the 6th grade of elementary school. She grew taller and looked more like a young lady. She had many friends and developed a bright personality. But lately, she seemed to be lacking her usual energy. When I asked if she was worried about anything, Hannah just shook her head and said it was nothing. Even when I contacted the school about Hannah's condition, there seemed to be no apparent troubles. On a night filled with concern, while I was sleeping in the master bedroom, I noticed Peter, lying next to me, starting to fidget, and then he got up. He stood up and left the bedroom, heading somewhere. I thought, maybe he went to get some water. Looking at the clock on the desk next to the bed, it was midnight. Unable to fall back asleep, I tossed and turned in bed. After some time, my husband did not return to the bedroom. As I was wondering about it but drifting back to sleep, I fell asleep again. Did you have trouble sleeping last night? While preparing breakfast, I asked Peter about last night.
Oh. Yeah.
I couldn't fall asleep, so I was in the living room. If you're waking up so often at night, maybe you should go see a doctor? Even though I suggested this. He answered that it was not necessary as it wasn't bothering him much. Then one day, I noticed my husband getting out of bed again and going somewhere. At the same time, perhaps because my throat was dry. I thought I was thirsty and got up from the bed following him. When I went to the living room, it was pitch dark and no one was there. I thought, where is Peter? Thinking he might be in the bathroom. I didn't worry much and filled a glass with tap water and drank it. Just as I was about to return to the bedroom, I thought I heard a noise from upstairs. Could it be that Hannah is awake? With that thought, I went up the stairs. Then, I came across Peter coming out of Hannah's room. You. What are you doing here? Angela, you were awake? He seemed surprised to see me. Is something wrong with Hannah? I came up because I heard a noise.
Oh.
Yes. I also heard a noise and went into Hannah's room. She was crying because she had a nightmare, so I was comforting her. Even though you and Hannah have been on bad terms, have you made up? Even if she acts cold, children love their parents. She seems to have calmed down and is sleeping now, so let's go downstairs. Could Hannah, who usually avoids her father, really be comforted by him just because she had a nightmare? The explanation was somewhat unsatisfactory, but urged by Peter to go back to sleep. We went downstairs and returned to our bedroom. From then on, my husband increasingly visited Hannah's room late at night. When I asked what he was doing, Peter always said Hannah couldn't sleep and wanted him to be with her. I asked Hannah if that was true, and she said she had asked her father to come. Hannah is a girl and sleeping with her father like this. Also, isn't it affecting your work if you are always waking up at night, Peter? No, if my lovely daughter asks, I don't mind losing a bit of sleep. Right, Hannah? Peter casually answered and sought Hannah's agreement. Yes. However, Hannah's expression, while agreeing, clearly seemed troubled. I decided not to interfere further since the two seemed to be okay. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Then, as mornings came, Hannah started to always seem sleep-deprived, yawn frequently, and appeared distracted and listless. Her grades, which were once at the top of her class, gradually began to decline, worrying not only me but also her homeroom teacher. Hey, Hannah, are you worried about something? You've been quite distracted lately. I asked, concerned about Hannah's condition, but she just smiled and said, "It's nothing, Mom. You're worrying too much." Then, 6 months later, it was when I went to pick up Hannah from her tutoring class by car. Just as the classes had ended, children were coming out of the tutoring center entrance. Among them, I spotted Hannah but noticed something about her. From the car, I noticed something that I hadn't realized. Because we are always together, Hannah seemed to be overall plumper.
Oh.
I'm tired. Today was a test day, so it was tough. She said this as she got into the car. You must be hungry. I'll make dinner as soon as we get home. Yay! I love Mom's cooking. You say such sweet things. By the way, Hannah, have you noticed any changes in your figure recently? You seem to be growing bigger. At my words, Hannah's expression stiffened momentarily.
Yeah.
I've gained weight recently, and my skirts and shirts are tight. I've not been feeling well either. Is that so? I'm sorry, I didn't notice at all. It might be some illness. Should we go to the hospital tomorrow? I had noticed she seemed sleep-deprived and distracted. But changes to her body suggested something serious. When I said this in a rush, Hannah's face took on a startled expression, and then she forced a smile. Just kidding, it was a lie. I just wanted to worry you a bit. Maybe I'm just tired. Really, it's nothing, forget about it. My daughter's attempt to dismiss her earlier words only increased my anxiety. I thought, could it be? Hannah's clearly unnatural behavior made me feel like. I finally understood the accumulated sense of unease. When we arrived home, Peter was just on the phone with someone. Stop making these ridiculous accusations. After shouting at the person on the other end, he hung up. Who were you talking to? You seemed quite angry. It's nothing, just a wrong number. Don't worry about it. Peter laughed it off and said he was going out for his usual walk, then left the house. Hannah's condition and Peter's attitude. Feeling that something was amiss, I checked the phone that Peter had just used. This number is... I searched the history and was puzzled when I saw the displayed phone number. It was the number of the elementary school Hannah attends. What could have made Peter so angry during that call? And why lie about it being a wrong number? Filled with unease, I felt I had to verify, so I called the elementary school. Identifying myself as Hannah's mother, I asked if something had happened concerning my daughter. It turned out that Peter had just been speaking to the school nurse. The nurse came on the line and explained. Hearing this, I was so shocked I was at a loss for words. During a recent physical exam, we discovered that Hannah has shingles all over her body. We suspect it might be due to stress. I was just explaining this to her father. But he abruptly hung up on me, insisting that his daughter was fine. The nurse's tone was very urgent. Yet, why did Peter stubbornly deny it? The unusual behavior from Peter made me suspect that the changes in Hannah's health were somehow related to him. We must clarify everything as soon as possible. Thinking this, I made a specific request to the nurse, who readily agreed to help, for Hannah's sake. I'm back. We need to talk. What's with that scary face? Unaware of my serious mood, Peter laughed casually. The person you were talking to earlier, it was a teacher from the school, wasn't it? Why did you lie about it being a wrong number? Apparently not expecting that I would call the school again, Peter looked startled. You see, you worry too much, right? I heard what was said, but it was nothing serious, so I didn't tell you. How can you say it's nothing serious? How can you know that? What? Hannah looks perfectly healthy to me. Saying she's sick is just slander. At my words, Peter vehemently argued back. Slander? Something is causing changes in Hannah's body due to stress. Don't you know something about Hannah's health condition? That's slander. I don't know anything. Hannah isn't saying anything either, is she? She isn't saying. Who has been threatening her not to speak? I've heard everything from Hannah while you were out walking. Pretending you don't know anything is pointless. After hearing from the school nurse about Hannah's condition, I immediately spoke with Hannah. At first, Hannah was reluctant to speak, but as I gently persuaded her, she began to cry and confessed something. Hannah had been coerced by Peter to sleep in the same bed at night. Although it might be acceptable when she was younger, Hannah is now a 6th grader. Forcing a girl to sleep with a man, even if he is her father, would naturally be resisted. Initially, Hannah had resisted it too. However, Peter yelled, if a daughter doesn't listen to her father, it's because of the mother's poor upbringing. He threatened to divorce me and kick me out of the house if Hannah did not listen. Not wanting to see me kicked out, Hannah reluctantly complied with Peter's orders. But just the thought of sleeping next to Peter made it hard for her to breathe. And as a result, she developed shingles from the stress. The symptoms of shingles include pain all over the body. This caused her not to be able to sleep at night, and even when she did fall asleep, her father would appear in her dreams and yell at her, preventing her from resting. The reason Hannah always seemed drowsy and absent-minded was that she could no longer get proper sleep. To distract herself from the stress, Hannah revealed that she had been getting up at night to secretly eat food from the refrigerator. That's probably why her body shape had suddenly changed. You told everything. Didn't I tell you not to tell anyone? As Peter yelled, he lunged at Hannah. I quickly stepped in front of her to protect her. I won't let you touch her. Stop hurting her further. Harming her? That's an exaggeration. I haven't done anything inappropriate. Sleeping together is just physical affection. What's wrong with a father sleeping with my daughter? Hannah clearly disliked it. You forced her despite the stress reactions in her body. A person who ignores his daughter's feelings doesn't deserve to be a father. I can't continue with you anymore. In response to my furious outburst, Peter suddenly began to panic. No. Please forgive me. He had only now realized the gravity of the situation, but it was too late. I could never forgive Peter for hurting our daughter. I will not forgive you. The only thing you can do is disappear from me and Hannah's life. No. I just wanted Hannah to be affectionate with me like she used to be. Don't abandon me. Peter then collapsed on the floor, sobbing. Hannah and I looked down on his pitiful figure with cold eyes. Upon further discussion, Peter explained that seeing other fathers warmly interacting with their children at school events made him feel inferior because his own daughter rejected him. She used to be such a sweet and obedient child. She used to follow me around calling me daddy. It was lonely when she suddenly became cold. You're just thinking about yourself and ignoring your child's feelings. Are you really a father? It's a sign of growth when a girl starts avoiding her father. It's normal to patiently observe, even if it feels lonely. Peter came to believe that Hannah's rejection was due to my poor parenting, and justified forcing her to sleep with him at night to correct the misguided education. Perhaps Peter thought that spending nights together would restore their close father-daughter relationship. Initially, Peter was burdened with problems at work, blamed by his boss and dealing with uncooperative younger colleagues. He lamented being secretly bad-mouthed by other employees, and confessed he wanted to be comforted through his interactions with Hannah. I was utterly appalled by his selfish reasoning. I understand that you were stressed from work, but it's inexcusable to force your daughter into a situation that worsened her health. That cannot be forgiven. It's just parental affection. Sure, it might have been a bit embarrassing at times, but calling it stress is an exaggeration. Are you still saying that? Fine, let's get a third party's perspective on Hannah's condition. Saying this, I picked up my smartphone and made a call. Then, a few minutes later, the doorbell rang. I welcomed the person in and led them to the living room. Who are you people, walking into someone's home like you own the place? The person I had called was the school nurse, who had been waiting nearby to explain Hannah's condition. As planned, the nurse arrived accompanied by a staff member from the child welfare office. There are clear signs of stress on Hannah's body, an SOS signal. The nurse firmly stated this to Peter. That's an exaggeration. Anyone can get shingles. She was just a bit weak. Despite the nurse explaining about Hannah's shingles, Peter consistently claimed, it's not my fault. In front of such a defiant Peter, Hannah, who had been watching the situation, stepped forward with a determined look. I was threatened to drive out Mom. I've been enduring it, but I can't take it anymore. Listen to this. Hannah took out her smartphone and started operating it. Then, a recording of Peter's voice came from the phone. It was, indeed, as Hannah had testified. A recording where he threatened to kick me out of the house if she didn't sleep with him. When did you record that? Were you trying to trap me, you unfortunate child? Peter hadn't expected Hannah to have recorded their conversation and began to berate her in panic. But no matter how much he denied it, there was no escaping the truth now. After listening to the recorded voice, the Child Welfare Office staff declared that it was clear the cause of Hannah's poor health was her father. Faced with a third party stating he was the cause, Peter was in shock. You were using Hannah as an outlet for your stress. But I will never allow that to happen again. As I declared this, Peter's head drooped in defeat. That night, Hannah was temporarily taken into care by the Child Welfare Office. I left Hannah in the care of the school nurse and a child welfare officer, and found myself alone at home with Peter. I then demanded a divorce from Peter. Come on, rethink the divorce. I admit I went too far with Hannah. I'll change my ways from now on. No matter how much you refuse, the divorce is final. Do you really think Hannah wants to live with you after this? Neither Hannah nor I can continue with you. No. I will never accept a divorce. No matter how much I explained, Peter refused to agree to a divorce until the very end. Realizing that talking further would be futile, I declared that we would handle the divorce through a lawyer. As I packed my bags, Peter tried to stop me, but I shook him off and left the house. I couldn't stand to breathe the same air as that man any longer. I decided to stay in a hotel that day and planned to pick up Hannah from the Child Welfare Office the next morning. Despite repeated calls from Peter, I continued to ignore them. There was no point in talking to someone who wouldn't understand. I blocked Peter's number. Eventually, Peter kept fussing about not wanting a divorce, and we had to hire a lawyer to negotiate the divorce. However, thanks to the testimony of the school nurse and the recognized harassment towards Hannah, the divorce was finalized. Of course, I won custody of Hannah. Peter stubbornly insisted on visitation rights. But when I threatened to demand a significant amount of compensation, he reluctantly gave up. Later, I heard through the grapevine that Peter remained alone in the house we had left. But the shock of the divorce sapped his will to work. He continued to miss work without notice until he was eventually fired. For a while, he led a dissolute life but eventually lost utilities like electricity and gas due to non-payment and was forced to sleep in a park. Though I pity Peter's situation, considering what he did to Hannah, I cannot forgive him even now after the divorce. I will likely never meet Peter again. Now, as a single mother, my life with Hannah began. Freed from Peter, Hannah gradually regained her cheerfulness. Nowadays, she is into K-pop idols with her friends and wants to study abroad in Korea. Studying Korean enthusiastically. Seeing her return to her bright self makes me relieved and happy. There will be challenges ahead. But I am committed to raising my precious daughter and protecting her smile. This is the promise I made to myself.